Full Metal Panic, it joins the prestigious group of other light novel series like Slayers and Record of Lodos War as being one of the few light novels I'll actually admit to liking. And there's several good reasons. The romance between Souske and Kaname is really well done. I love the action. The mech designs are really great. And when you actually read the novels, it actually takes the time to point out how impractical giant mobile suits would be in the real world, but somehow they're effective in this world. It manages to blend slice of life shenanigans of a teenager who does the military otaku trying to adjust to normal life with some really good political, real robot drama. I'll admit, I'm always torn whenever I sit down because part of me loves the comedy stuff. It gets me on the roll ball laughing. On the other hand, I love the more serious moments of it all. And one of the things that I kind of miss about not doing Fandom Fridays, mainly because work-related reasons, is that I don't get to explore all the different types of series that I love. So, considering the fact that I know that I'm going to be running out of Luniverse stories in a bit, as my way to take a break from doing Awesome Ponies, might as well do it here. So, let's talk about Full Metal Panic. Enjoy, all you people who are fans of the series. The most dangerous game. Smoke clouded the room as the cigar aficionados poked away, slowly depleting the boxes of Cuban cigars. Large crystal decanters held brandy, port, and 25-year-old scotch. Ornamental china bowls held caviar. Hand-painted plates containing a few remaining pieces of smoked salmon and imported cheese. The session was coming to an end. 10 men and 2 women sat around an antique ebony table, the top polished to a mirror smoothness. Some sat upright, a model of sophistication. A large number lounged indolently, their shoes scuffling the fine furniture. Others milled about, wanting a better view. Each man there, politician, business steward, captain of industry, or wealthy rank-and-ter, had his eyes on a large LCD screen.
That brings us to the last of our professionals, Jacques Han, 38 years old and a mercenary for almost half of those years. He has done cleaning work for organized crime as well as odd jobs for those who meet all of his demands. He has done political assassinations, some of which are made the international press without his identity ever being suspected. Expert with pistols. He is also adept at savate and knife fighting. He has no family and no one tracking his whereabouts. A portly man in his mid-50s, the speaker took a long sip of scotch before continuing. He wore a fancy leather coat, designer slacks, and a food-stained silk shirt. A large stack of folders sat in front of him, as did a wireless keyboard. It cost a pretty penny to bring him here, but I think he'll prove worth it. You've had time to read his files. For the next few minutes, we'll run personal footage he has supplied. After that, I would like a motion to accept him until our next event. We will then vote.
In the next 10 minutes, the assembled men watched the film, hearing the mercenary describe his past operations and define his past weapons proficiencies and combat approaches. At the finish, the men in the room ran a motion, seconded, and unanimously voted to add the mercenary to this list of combatants.
Now that we have finished with that, I propose we review a number of special opportunities.
A tall, cadaverous man stood, his ruffled peach-colored shirt ill-matched with his press-fitting slacks.
As we know from our earlier extravaganzas with pitfalls and fighting cocks, the wild element can throw an exciting touch of uncertainty and unpredictability into the mix. Some of our best animals started off as strays or amateur projects. I have gathered a number of candidates per your perusal, and will afford you the option of adding one or all to the roster.
The first 5 men discussed were escaped criminals, numerous street gangs, and winners of less sophisticated legal tournaments. All would come cheap. Each would make for an interesting contrast to the professionally trained soldiers and assassins. 4 out of the 5 were judged to be promising. The 5th was considered to be deficient in martial abilities.
That brings us to our last item, gentlemen. Everywhere we look for someone memorable, some person or persons who are liven up the betting and bring a touch of uniqueness. I direct your attention to the screen if you will be so kind.
A photograph of a teenage boy, sporting a high school uniform, filled the screen, a distinctive X-shaped scar, adding the look of toughness to his otherwise unremarkable face. Why is it that some of my favorite anime have characters with cross-shaped scars on their faces?
His name is Souske Sagara. He's a third-year student at Jinai High School.
The speaker's declaration was met by laughter, chuckling, a few razzes, and a noisy expectation.
So much for the joke, Ichabod. Who's he really, your daughter's boyfriend? Want to get rid of him or something?
Most of the men in the room laughed. Many of the men pictured on the long-distance monitors looked to be misused as well.
Not your secret lover, I hope.
Stickers and guffaw followed.
It took a little while to identify him, but he came to our attention after reviewing film of an attempted bank robbery. It will be instructive to see how many of you will continue to scoff after we view the recording. As for daughters, I believe yours is enrolled at the Da Vinci International School in Antwerp, is he not?
That supposedly hidden fact silenced the loudmouth jokester.
Let's go to the videotape,
the tall man said with a grin. The film was not of highest quality, as it was put together from the teams of surveillance and security cameras. The picture looked as if it were viewed through a fistbowl, but the footage was sufficient to pique everyone's interest. Young man, moving with confidence and an air of purpose, easily took out every criminal in the establishment. His weapon skills were impressive, and his decision-making ability formidable. There was no further laughter.
Any family? Someone who will miss him?
The question came from a stocky, balding man with a jeweled eye patch, a cigar stub as tightly as his teeth.
None,
the lanky man replied.
His parents are both long since deceased in Afghanistan, or so the dossier at his high school says. There are no living relatives. His money is in a trust fund under the family name, and lives alone in a single-person domicile. A spy noted in a small group of friends, none of them with significant backgrounds. With the one exception being a young lady whose family is in organized crime. She should not prove a risk or impediment anyway.
How and where did he receive his training in weapons?
A mannish-looking woman with a crew-cut scar across the jawline stood up, took a look at one of the folders pertaining to the boy in question.
Afghanistan, after his parents died.
That's our best guess,
the tall man answered, flicking some ashes off a cigarette.
No doubt he ran with the Mahudin, learning to fight or die. There is record of him in Japan for less than 2 years. From our spy, we have word that he's a military otaku, eating, sleeping, dreaming, probably shitty military habits and attitudes.
That true description had one man sniffing and looking superior. He swallowed hard when the speaker glared at him.
His personal account is sizable, no doubt allowing him to afford black market prices without any difficulty. His ability to obtain weapons is another sign of his resourcefulness. After you finish reading that scant material in his folder, I recommend we include him.
He should come pretty cheap, should not?
A long-haired, square-jawed man in a brushed velvet suit, with one leg hanging over his armchair. He spat tobacco at his stained guard's tail.
Batoy! Yes, the boy's advocate answered, smiling. At Tufi smiled. Very cheap indeed. I doubt he'll be easily bought, but we know the currency we need.
Walking over to the portly man's keyboard, he pushed a single key. A color school photo of an attractive young lady filled the upper left corner, almost looking as if she were sneering at the action still taking place at the remainder of the view screen. She too wore a school uniform, starkly accentuating the blue color of her hair.
Young Master Sagara spends a lot of time with this young woman, a Miss Kaname Chidori. She too lives alone, with her mother deceased, and her father and sister in the United States.
She might provide a rather nice present during the extravaganza, might she not?
The red-faced man in a tuxedo asked, stroking its belly with jewel-encrusted hand.
Might prove an interesting prize for the winner of the preceding stakes card games.
Many heads nodded in agreement.
Let's vote, gentlemen. What was his name again?
Souske Sagara. Sorry, this whole opening, this reeks of a James Bond opening. I would like to vote for You Know My Name as the song.
Damn that Souske!
Kaname had stormed off in a huff, still seething. Curse his blasted taco brain! Unfortunately, she was alone. So the words she chose would not go over well in polite company. If any other people walking the street had been close by, they would have been troubled by her red face, clenched fists, and stiff-legged walk. A black cat crossed their path and quietly sped towards the nearest place of safety.
Just when I thought he might have a single romantic bone in his body, no doubt the doctors at Mithril discovered it on his last checkup and had it removed.
She had dressed especially nice today. She had bought him a delicious lunch. She had on his favorite perfume. It was a special day. They had chosen that day to officially announce they were dating. Not that many people were surprised. That was not the point.
Yes, the same damn trick again. Why today?
She had been foolish. Her expectations were too high. When she saw the bracelet and pin, she was speechless. They were so beautiful, so well crafted. Then he opened his mouth. I hope you like these, Kaname. I had them made especially for you. Dad put her on cloud 9. The bracelet has a powerful black technology tracer on it. The pin is a microphone. Twist one petal on the flower and it will be active. Dad pulled the cloud right out from under her feet. Why do I think that his engagement ring to her contains a powerful transmitter? And that the wedding band holds a couple of secret tricks? And after the wedding, Kaname does ask, and Souske tells her, and at that point, she doesn't care. She's married to him. And to make matters worse, she blew it in front of the whole class. Kyoko got it all on film.
I don't know why I ever put my faith in him.
She stormed out of the school alone. As soon as she heard the buzzer, it suited her mood. She certainly was not going to wait for that moronic military misfit. He had earned the right to clean all of the blackboard erasers in school by detonating that suspicious package he's discovered outside of school. Again, why today? One of the Year 2 students had seen the vice principal drop the brown paper wrapped parcel. The school official had been too slow to retrieve it. It was mortifying when pieces of his special imported girly magazines had been scattered all over the parking lot and student outdoor lunch area. Enough pages had been attacked to let everybody know that he had been carrying. The superintendent had been visiting. Kaname was too distracted to notice a pair of shadowy figures standing in the shadow of a large dumpster. She did not hear the soft footfalls following behind her. There was no chance to cry out or struggle when a chloroform-filled sock was firmly held across her mouth and nose. You people have a death wish, don't you? This is the equivalent of kidnapping Relina from Hero. This is the equivalent of looking at Leoch while he's in his nightmare frame, surrounded by Colin and Suzaku, and telling him, "You touched Nunnally inappropriately. You are dead." "I still have a lot to learn," Souske said to himself on the way home. He thought that Kaname would like the jewelry. Yes, she had blown up at him the last time he had given her practical items, but that had been before they started caring for each other. Of course, he also made the mistake of saying he asked Captain Testarossa advice for design work. The other matter was less troublesome. Despite his greater sensitivity and better grasp of common sense, Souske still falls back on held habits now and then. It could have been a bomb, he groused. Mithril, in its beleaguered financial division, would see to the vice principal's discontent. Perhaps Kurtz would offer him some replacement magazines, or they could send Melissa by to speak with him again. If she had brought the whip, it might speed things along. It would not be a serious problem. Kaname was a different story. The further the relationship went, the more angry she got at his perceived errors and inadequacies. It was confusing. She kept saying, "You need to love me for who I am. You don't be expecting me to change to suit your whims." Nonetheless, every chance she got, she kept trying to change him. For the 100th time, he wished that Mithril had a field manual on women. Then again, if it had been written by either Captain Testarossa or Major Sergeant Mal, his mind weighed down by a number of issues. Souske still managed to catch sight of 2 very subtle scrape marks on the side of the road as he walked home. The marks reminded him of those made by a body being dragged. For a brief moment, his heart felt like it stopped. What if Kaname had been abducted? Was the instantaneous thought. He stood still a moment, calming himself down. What was the likelihood of that happening on the one day she runs off on her own? Kaname had his spare key. If she was not waiting for him at his apartment, he would need to give her a call as soon as possible. It was quite likely that she was timing him. She might even have him under surveillance. He must see damage control before things got out of hand. Even more out of hand, he corrected himself. She was not waiting for him in his room. Somebody else was. A street punk in riot clothes, a skateboard under his arm. He was lounging against his door. He carried a large Huffle-style envelope. His spiked hair was tinted by every day color imaginable. Deal graffiti on both of the items he held. "Hey, boyo! This your crib?" His front teeth were chipped by the metal barbell piercing his tongue. His slurred speech had different origin, given the smell of alcohol on his breath. "If it is, bro, then I've got something for you." Before answering, Souske walked carefully up and down the hallway in both directions. Seeing no one, he cautiously approached the unusual-looking man. "This is my apartment. My name is Souske Sagara. Who are you looking for? Why are you looking for someone?" Souske pulled his Glock 17 out of his side pocket on his carry bag. He held it casually by his side, dropping his bag to the floor. The young man's eyes widened at the sight of the gun. "Whoa, man! Be cool, friend. I'm just running an errand. My boss got a call. We got some money. You get the envelope. Then the deal's all square, right?" His hand shook as he held out the delivery. Souske carefully sniffed the envelope. Smelling no evidence of recognizable poison, he took a pair of gloves out of his bag as to keep from adding further fingerprints. Opening the envelope, he pulled out a paper and Polaroid picture. The snap caught his attention first and earned the garish young man a hard cuff across the temple with the pistol. "Where is she? Who has her? If you answer truthfully and I can confirm your words, there's a good chance that I will let you live." The picture showed Kaname tied to a chair, a frightened look on her face. The bracelet and pin were still in place. Sitting on the floor, the amateur courier cringed, pressing his back against the wall. Eyes were wide, his breathing rapid. "Man, I don't know anything about what's in there. It's none of my business. Don't be telling me something I don't need to hear. I did what I was told to. Now I just want to scram." He got to his feet in posture, screaming that he was about to make a break for it. He is also probably messing his pants up. Coldly and efficiently, Souske kicked the young man's feet out from under him, held a hand to his neck to drive his head to the floor. The impact was extremely painful. leaving a few polka dots of hairpin on the hard surface. I will read the message. If I have a reason to believe you are lying, things will go poorly for you. The look on his face left the frightened courier speechless. Souske read the note. Can I just say, I love Chris Patton's voice for Souske. Just the way he sounds so efficient, just so to the point. I love it. He stood still momentarily, a prisoner in disbelief. One of his favorite short stories came to mind, The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Connell, a classic tale of good versus evil, hunter becoming the hunted. It had been made into a movie with Fay Wray and Joel McRae, a warm-up of sorts for King Kong. Why do I feel like that's one of the few films he watches where he doesn't deconstruct the weapons and tactics? Although, personally, I would love to see a fic that does a movie night with Kaname and Souske, where Kaname watches her favorite action films with Souske, and they proceed to complain, and Souske proceeds to break down what is wrong with them. It's the equivalent of me watching a film with medical fields or nursing scenarios and watching my mother tear it apart bit by bit. It is a hilarious day, and I just enjoy it. He let the boy run off. Walking to his apartment, he headed for the communications console. There was a knock on the door.
Come in.
Tessa checked the tea. Almost ready. Good. 2 plates with cut fruit and small biscuits were on her desk, courtesy of the kitchen staff.
Madam Captain?
Lieutenant Commodore Cullinan politely inclined his head before taking the available seat. Oh, I get it. This fic was probably made before...
We're sorry, but we here at the Spoiler Brigade realize that not all of you have watched Invisible Victory or read the other light novels in the series. We recommend you hold off on any type of spoilers before asking why Legend Bringers is actually surprised at what's going on here with Commander Cullinan. Thank you, and please enjoy. You said you had urgent news regarding Sergeant Sagara and Miss Chittering, Mr. Cullen?
Tessa wrinkled her nose at the mention of the young woman.
I hope you're not here to inform me that they have eloped.
She amended his lighthearted joke, but her throat tightened up just the same. She still had great difficulty with their relationship.
No, Captain. That would be much simpler to deal with. There is a rather unique situation. Something I would have thought exclusive to pulp novels or bad television.
He gratefully accepted a cup of tea and a plate of food.
You are here to discuss whether or not Mithril has a role in playing cleaning up the mess.
Tessa had seen that look before, those finger twitches.
Very serious always, Captain.
The lieutenant commander smiled after taking a sip of tea. Exquisite.
The crux of the matter has to deal with some form of illegal betting operator.
He blinked twice, realizing his choice of wording.
Imagine the ancient Roman gladiatorial games, substituting mercenaries, killers, street dogs, and other violent men and women. It appeared that Sergeant Sagara has caught someone's attention. His participation has been requested in no uncertain terms.
What?
Tess nearly choked on her tea. She frowned. It was uncouth to show that kind of emotional reaction.
I take it you refused him permission. He was foolish enough to ask for it. Mithril does not make it a point to encourage barbarism.
That's not entirely true in some instances.
I am certain will remain quite capable of providing the sergeant with all the violent opponents he'll ever require.
It's more complicated than that, Madam Captain. Sergeant Sagara's voluntary participation was no doubt judged to be a low probability. Unknown persons took it upon themselves to improve the odds considerably. They kidnapped Miss Chittering and are holding her hostage. Her safe return led to the sergeant's participation in their little game.
So, what you're saying is, we found a suicide cult.
We found a suicide cult.
Lieutenant Commander's eye lit twits with a nervous tick. Tessa furrowed her brow.
That's barbaric. Those bastards.
She buzzed her choice of words.
That certainly puts us squarely in the horns of a dilemma.
She stirred her tea, mind a swirl with countless issues that revolved around the news.
I'll let you hear your analysis, Mr. Cullinan.
Sergeant Sakura could be ordered to avoid the confrontation. Miss Jittery is wearing a tracker and microphone that the sergeant provided her with, disguised as jewelry.
He noticed a quick frown on his commanding officer's face.
We could go in ourselves, with a special strike team. There's a good chance that we could extricate the hostage. It might, however, prove useful to have a man on the inside. It also proved wise to wait until a majority of armed contestants were eliminated, if possible. That, of course, would put Sergeant Sakura at risk.
Do you think the sergeant would follow your order if you told him to sit on the sidelines?
Tessa already knew the answer, but the point needed to be verbalized.
No, I do not,
Collins said, nodding his head, a slight smile on his lips.
If it were my choice, I'd rather have at least a modicum of control over his planning and actions. The more important question is whether or not Mithril should become involved. I doubt a well-orchestrated attack would even shine the shiniest bit of light on our existence.
In a cough that cleared his throat, he took a sip of tea.
More to the point, however, is whether or not we should set precedent. So we go out of the way to protect the Whispered when our captors know nothing of their special abilities. So we put the lives of any number of operatives at stake in order to further the goals of one young sergeant.
Pros and cons, if you please.
Tessa's own mind was speeding along like a bullet train on a new stretch of track.
The dangers I'm most concerned with have to do with our sponsors, Captain, as they contribute a considerable sum of money and equipment, not to mention intelligence information and political clout. They feel that our right to judge our actions and intentions. Our crusade to protect the Whispered is tolerated by some, but it's not sufficiently in their interest to risk unwanted discoveries.
I agree, Mr. Collin. We will not be able to paint this as an anti-terrorist action. While any ethical and moral man should cheer the elimination of a dirty practice as the one you are suggesting, the action would benefit only a single nation, and one that has not taken requisite steps to rectify the situation itself.
Tessa's face hardened as he realized that there was no good justification for the organization to become involved. Just before she put the thought into words, an idea struck her. Mr. Collin did not miss the sudden change in expression.
Would it be possible, Mr. Collin, for some of our most sought-after terrorists and mercenaries to be invited to such a contest?
Stroking his beard, Lieutenant Commander Collin nodded.
An impressive line of reasoning, Captain. The intelligence division informs me they've gotten wind of contests of this sort before. Some of the names rumored to have been involved were rather interesting, to say the least. I can see one significant flaw in your line of thought, however.
The games are arranged so only one man walks away. We could simply sit back and let them kill each other.
Tessa scowled, realizing the soundness of that argument.
Yes, that would be my supposition, even though the note delivered to Sergeant Sakura did not explicitly make that point.
He took a fax document out of the folder he had brought with him.
Here's a copy of the correspondence sent to Sergeant Sagara.
The document mentioned an armed contest, men against men, a prize for the victor. It told Souske where to meet, when to be there, and what would happen if he did not comply. He was instructed to bring weapons of his choosing, no specific details or limitations. I would like to remind those of us who are listening who are not familiar with Full Metal Panic that this is the same guy who, when was told to drop all of his weapons while beating a gang of punks who kidnapped Kaname, dropped out a machine gun, flash grenades, normal grenades, a Glock, an Uzi, another Uzi, several different types of guns, a Bowie knife, and a few more instruments of destruction, leaving the gang to wonder how did he hide them all. There was a rather blunt warning against involving additional persons. Tessa wanted to crumple up the paper and throw it against the wall. She maintained her calm and dignity.
The lack of details could work to our advantage, could it not?
Tessa rested her chin on both folded hands.
A group of men brazen enough to come up with such an atrocity, and powerful enough to pull it off undetected. Mike does happen to have a connection to the drug trade or black market guards, right?
Tessa tapped one finger against her cheek. Don't forget rubbing her cute little ponytail against her lips.
Well, I love it when Tessa does that. She looks so cute.
You are correct, Madam Captain. We could also offer considerations. Sergeant Sagara is clearly a target. Whether or not he agrees to participate. He remains the only person capable of piloting the ARX-7 all-armed slave. The Lambda driver is growing in importance, not diminishing. We cannot afford to lose such a valuable resource.
Colin stepped his hands together. He began to consider which divisions and what soldiers would be needed to be in type of operation. Things would be needed to set rolling as soon as possible. The scope of the operation was expanded in an attempt to discover as many people as possible involved in the troublesome practice. Things would get very complicated very quickly.
It seems we have arrived at a common conclusion, Mr. Cullinan. Please orchestrate matters as soon as you're able. Send a response to Sergeant Sakura. Give him our blessings.
Tessa clearly looked relieved. She flipped her ponytail around her hand.
At once, Captain.
Before exiting the door, Lieutenant Commander Cullinan turned and left Tessa with a final thought.
Those bastards, as you call them, have no idea what kind of spectacle they have won for themselves. I can't help but wonder if our operatives are being sent in to rescue Sergeant Sagara, or whether they'll simply mop up after him.
His brightly colored Hawaiian shirt drawing the attention of a sedate and dignified businessman crowding the sidewalk at lunchtime. Kurtz put on his well-lit pair of sunglasses and continued his brisk walk towards the safe house. His bullying and flirting stirred up the pretty college girls and conservative secretaries. His tearful exclamations of, "Oh yeah," and "Hey babe," were exceeded only by his repeated cry of, "Come on, sis, move your cute little ass faster than that. I know you want this beer pretty bad." Melissa growled. It was getting harder by the moment to maintain her composure. The joke had been lame to start with. It was way past annoying now. Kurtz held a beer in his hand, having said it was like carrot held from a donkey. Or ass, of course.
Kurtz, I think I'll teach you the difference between a donkey and a mule when we get to the apartment. I'll be doing a really big favor.
Oh yeah, Kurtz Weber never shies away from horsing around, babe. You can teach me all you want, as long as the ride is sweet. He bowed and waved his arms flamboyantly, headed towards the pharmacy. I'll get the essential items in there. Do you prefer ribbed or smooth? Doesn't matter, dead man. Dick and Shippy remains home in either type. I think my point went over your empty little head. No surprise there. Melissa, her black halter top stretched to its limit and cut off her shorts running a little too high. Laughed as she drew her concealed combat knife. Mules are always born to a female horse and male jackass. No matter how they end up looking, they're always sterile. She tossed the knife, caught it, and made a slashing motion a little below waist level. They're still good at carrying stuff, though. You're doing a real good job of carrying that beer, by the way. Kurtz gulped. Without looking or slowing down, he tossed the beer over his head, smiling when he heard Melissa cancel it. Don't mention it, babe. I owe you one. After getting to watch you in that outfit, be still my beating heart. Keep it up, Weber. Your heart will be the only thing you'll have left to beat. They'll probably give me a fucking medal. Melissa's laugh startled a group of elderly women holding a high ice cream bars. They argue, but the sex is sweet. Kurtz's rejoinder was cut short by the sound of a cell phone ringing. Melissa took the phone out of her purse, looked at the number displayed, and walked over to a sheltered alcove. Kurtz stood in front of her, eyes carefully scanning the between buildings as he waited. Time to saddle up, Melissa said when she finished receiving the instructions. Kanamesa in the Kabusuko district of Shizuku. I had the coordinates. We need to meet a couple of copters and grab our M9s. Gonna be a hot time in the old town tonight. Oh, baby, the red light district. A pretty court lady in every corner, gambling, drinking, blue movies, and fine food. What more can a man ask for? Neon flights, karaoke, and a hot sergeant major. I must have died and gone to heaven. Kurtz was rubbing his hands together with glee. Come on, Sergeant. We have work to do. Fly down a cab, and I'll be quicker than calling your driver. Okay, show a little more leg, babe. That'll get us a taxi real fast. Oh, yeah. Kurtz's laugh was interrupted by a swift foot to his stomach. Enough leg for you, Kurtzy boy? Melissa smiled triumphantly. Plenty. Alone in his apartment, Souske wrestled with guilt. Ultimately, he was the reason that Kaname was in grave danger now. That truth sat poorly with him. The kidnapping of Kanaka had been prompted by her being whispered. Many of their smaller adventures had taken place as a result of their identity and simple misfortune. In some manner, Souske Sagara had proven himself to be a worthy recruit for gladiatorial games. He was Raidsford, the big game hunter, an ultimate quarry for the crazed General Zarov to hunt. But there would be no ship-trap island, no Caribbean jungle. The organizers, people with passion for the hunt and to kill, there's low probability they would be a physical risk to themselves. They lived for the danger, maybe, but for the danger of others. The very thought angered Souske, but also gave him hope. Safe in their gilded cages, might such men grow lax and overconfident? It's likely they did not know of Mithral's existence, or his connection to the secret mercenary organization. Perhaps they might meet Zarov's fate when it was all said and done. Kaname's safety weighed heavily on the young soldier's heart. There's no sense he would be released if Souske participated in their game, but he knew what happened all too often when captives caught sight of their gangsters' faces or surroundings. So he had the bracelet. As he was able to activate it, the microphone might play a role. Kurtz, Melissa, and contingent of ground forces were assigned to a rescue. He had no choice but to put his face squarely on their shoulders. The invitation had instructed him to bring the weapons of his choice. There are no limitations made on the number of weapons or type of weapons. As such, he decided on the strategy of overkill. He would bring as much as he could carry. The selection could be weeded out bit by bit, or in one large purge, depending on future restrictions in the nature of combat itself. What to bring? I'm also playing some music from Commando, which is one of my favorite Arnold movies. The note had instructed him to meet his contacts in a mahjong parlor in the Kapituko quarter. Intel folks at Mithril had gone over satellite photos of the area with a fine-tooth comb. Looked at the particular shop set next to a series of old warehouse buildings and an old abandoned fireworks factory. The gamesters may have well turned those buildings into fighting arenas. If the goal was to provide a good show, and to test the skills of one man against another, there would be needing adequate visibility for the watchers, and sufficient cover and obstacles for the contestants. The cameras could suffice for one, unless the bettors wanted a more visceral thrill. Souske gave thought to Rainsford and his run for Zarnov. The big game hunter had been the mouse to the Russian general's cat. Zarnov had given his prey plenty of number of reprieves, so the game could go on longer. Souske would not likely receive such a boon. For certain, he would not treat this as a game. He knew well meaning of killed or be killed. The traps Rainsford made, the Malay man-catcher, the Burmese tiger's trap, the Ugandan knife whip, had not stopped Zarnov. Nonetheless, they had hurt him on one occasion, claimed the life of his most dangerous leadsman, reduced the number of hounds trailing him. Yes, there would be room in his weapons bag for some C4 and a number of anti-personnel mines. What else? Grenades of various types. Lightweight but sophisticated night vision and infrared gear, a colossal bolt bow gun, and darts tipped with cone shell venom. For what seemed like an eternity, the young male inhaled his combat knife, rolling in his hand, examining its very edge. It was a physical anchor, holding his mind in place as it rode some large swells of emotion and self-examination. The bow was for Kaname. He would likely have excess levels of his civilized nature again, without medications. This knife was simple as that. Souske had to decide whether or not he would fight dirty. He would. Although it would make him sick to his core, he would carry quick-acting poison to add to the blade. His life and honor meant nothing compared to Kaname. She was everything to him. If he could survive as Rainsford did, in his case leaping from cliff to the roaring sea, he might gain the opportunity the fictional character had. Instead of making a swim for freedom, Rainsford had snuck back into Zarov's estate, confronted him, and enjoyed a comfortable rest in a dead man's bed. Kaname was danger. He badly wanted to purse the pay. For a moment, his features brightened. The young conqueror he was striking. He would be an animal, a civilized animal. He would personally do whatever was necessary to remove each and every threat. He would not afford to simply place all his faith in Mithril. Well, a civilized animal had a need for something more than a tooth and claws. He weighed the benefits of each of his pistols, rifles, and submachine guns, finally arriving at the final mix. When everything was securely packed away, he would head downstairs to a waiting van. He would be driven to the fringes of the red light district. The last part of the journey would be made on foot. After taking a long look at his recent photograph of his girlfriend, Souske turned out the lights and headed on his way.